You are about to enter a great adventure.
This is Starting from Gorilla.
Hey everybody, welcome back to our Royal Rumble review episode of Strutting from Gorilla. I am Mikey Cash, and back with me in the a-hole chair, Big Vito. I'm so happy you're back. I missed you.
There's nothing like being in the a-hole chair, Mikey Cash. It was great watching the episode with you and Sarge. Did a great job. You killed it. But I wanted to scream through the YouTube channel. I really did. There was so much I had to say and get off my chest, and I just couldn't. But
I know
it's great to be back.
Yeah. Well, did you enjoy your tropical vacation?
I did. I made it back just in time for the Royal Rumble. I literally opened the door, turned the Rumble on, and they were like 3 people into the women's match. So I was able to catch a good amount of it. But
nice.
It was good. Good. I'm refreshed. I'm ready to go. You know, what does Pat McAfee say? Let's go.
So listen, man, I'm obviously for the listeners at home, so glad you guys are here with us. I know we just released an episode on Friday with Sarge. He unfortunately couldn't be here today. So, but hey, the original 2 are here. So let's jump right into it. I mean, this Rumble, there's been a lot of thoughts about this Rumble. I think people aren't necessarily upset with the winners, but I think overall, is it safe to say that this might have been not one of the best received shows that we've seen in quite some time?
Yeah, before we get into the Rumble though, I do have to catch up. Just a tad bit, because
that's right. You do.
I need to revisit a couple things, because obviously the Vince McMahon thing going on is a big deal, right?
Yeah, we missed a lot.
And unfortunately, our podcast is named after Vince McMahon, strutting from Gorilla.
Right.
And I think you guys did a pretty good job of hitting everything, exactly how I felt. What's interesting though is I feel like, as much as it obviously is a terrible thing, I feel like they have been trying to distance themselves from Vince McMahon, and they knew this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how much of it, has to do with Stephanie McMahon resigning and not wanting anything to do with it, and Shane McMahon, how much they knew about this. I mean, because clearly they had to know before all of this came out. I mean, I don't think this was a surprise to them. And I mean, I think there's probably a lot of people that didn't know the situation, but it seemed like they were distancing themselves anyways. And it doesn't feel, as much as he's a big part of WWE, and you think of WWE, you think of wrestling, you think of how much Vince McMahon has done. If he was more prominently involved, I feel like it would be like a bigger knock to WWE, but they distance themselves so much, and then they bring in The Rock, which I don't think was a coincidence, and now he's on the board of directors. I think a lot of that stuff, if you go back in the realm of history of wrestling, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the locker room that, unfortunately in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't a lot of good things, right? And I think with his prominent power, he was able to skate by with some of this stuff. And it's just, I'm glad, if this, is true, which I'm not doubting it is. It's pretty detailed. I'm glad they caught him. And I'm glad we're not celebrating a guy who would do these things. It's just, in today's world, and in any world, it's just something you don't want to see. You don't want to hear about. I'm always a big proponent of trying to separate the two. I think this is going to be a mark on him, like it was before. We had talked about this on a previous episode. But I also think he still has done a lot for wrestling. And without him, I don't think you have a lot of the stuff that you have today. And I don't know what you do. What I find interesting is if this was Hulk Hogan or Chris Benoit or another talent, they bury them. They don't even talk about the guy, you know. And I hope Vince gets a little bit of that treatment, because quite honestly, he should. You know, unfortunately, if you look back in the history of wrestling, he's probably going to go down as one of the best heel characters they've ever had, right? And it's gonna be hard not to focus on him, but it's almost like that heel character came to life. I mean, they showed a clip of Hulk Hogan when he was it Mr. America or whatever he was doing right before he retired, and he's doing the lie detector test, and it's like that clip did not air well. You know, it talks about he's like I'm no pervert, and then the lie detector goes off. It's like, you know, I think there's some truth to his character, to be honest with you. I think in a lot of these instances with the wrestlers, the best characters are real life portrayals of themselves, and unfortunately, that's the guy you get.
Right.
But
it puts those clips of him with Trish and Stacy Keibler, all of that, into like a very uncomfortable perspective when you reflect on it.
It does. And you know, it's unfortunate for the woman that this happened to. Obviously, you feel terrible for her. She was in a spot that, you know, you don't want a lot of people, you don't want to see in that spot. Like, that's a really difficult spot to be in when you have someone who's controlling your career and threatening you and your livelihood and your life, basically, to do some of this stuff. But, you know, I think it's a stain on his career. I think WWE and TKO set it up so that they were distancing themselves from him, and unfortunately it comes at a time where I think WWE is at a high spot where they haven't been in probably 2 decades. So hopefully, you know, this gets handled and Vince McMahon, you know, this woman gets her justice, if, you know, and we move on, because I've been enjoying a lot of the storylines in WWE, and I hope it doesn't taint all the hard work that some of these people have been doing, and the momentum that they've had. So that's kind of my 2 cents in a quick nutshell. But you guys did a great job covering it, and I feel the same way you guys do. It sucks. It's not something you want to see or hear about.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have said it better myself, Vito. It's just a horrible situation, and thankfully there's some sort of accountability here. It looks like the resignation is actually official. From what I saw, there's TKO filed some paperwork that makes it pretty legitimate that he is resigned from all of his duties on the board. And yeah, it probably was not a coincidence that The Rock was brought on. I think I mentioned this last episode, but they had an idea that this was coming. There's no way.
No, they definitely
look at how seamless that transition was.
Oh, they definitely
didn't miss a step. So they
definitely knew.
They were prepared for this.
Yeah, no, they definitely knew. And you know, it'll be interesting. You know, you see all these Dark Side of the Ring episodes. They're doing a Netflix documentary on Vince McMahon. And I think, from what I was reading something the other day, and take it for what it's worth, but it was supposed to be this, you know, piece that was pretty glorifying of Vince McMahon and all he's done for the industry. And what I've read is that it has been, since this whole thing, it has completely changed, and it's been taking a lot longer to come out because I think they changed the direction of the documentary. Yeah, and I'm very curious to see how it pans out. I mean, listen, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but if you read a lot of the stories from back in the day, even the things about like Pat Patterson and some of the things he did and some of the stuff people would do in that locker room, you know, it's a stain on the sport for sure, more so, you know, than a lot of other sports. And I don't know why it's that way, but unfortunately it is. And I think they've come a long way in this industry where it's a lot less. I think it has to be because of social media and just information. But I think it's come a long way from where it was, 30, 40 years ago. And unfortunately, I guess it isn't 100% clean.
No.
So I don't think it ever will be, and I don't think any sport will be. But all you can do is, take a look at this and say, hey, look, here's a situation that shouldn't happen again, and how do we learn from this and move on? And I think that's what they need to do, right? Like, people in power like that shouldn't have that ability. That's basically how I look at it,
Mm-hmm.
So, but moving on real quick, I want to touch on one other thing, and I'll be real quick on this. Peacock sucks. I'm excited about Netflix. I'm curious to see how the relationship with Raw and SmackDown moving to USA affects things. I mean, you can generally see a shift in, like, even the commentators. Like, you got Michael Cole went over to Raw, and then you got Pat McAfee, who's back and doing another run, which I'm happy about. I love Pat McAfee as a
they're
commentator.
Great together.
Oh, they're awesome. I mean, it's really good. And, we've talked about it plenty of times on our podcast. Having the commentary team is a huge part of watching these shows. And, like, you go back to Jerry Lawler and JR, like, honestly, having them around the Attitude Era made that era. And you haven't had a lot of that. But when you see Michael Cole and Pat McAfee together, I think it's about as close as you get to a good commentary team. And anyways, I'm excited about the Netflix thing. 10 years, I think it'll be interesting. I'm excited, like you said, about watching it. You watch it from anywhere. Like, I'm in Aruba, I can't watch anything but Netflix. It would have been great to hop on there. I'm really curious about the catalog. I'm honestly more curious about the catalog because since when WWE Network is around, it was so easy to go and watch whatever you wanted to watch. You go into Peacock, and it's just like, it's like a hot mess, man.
It's like pulling teeth trying to find what you're looking for.
Awful. The categories are all messed up. I hate it. I think it's garbage. Like, it's a waste of money for them. But I think they're capitalizing. I don't know how it's going to work. I think Netflix would do a better job. But I miss the WWE Network. I really do. I think everyone would say that who's a wrestling fan. So hopefully they can capitalize on that. I don't know how it's going to work. But
did you see that WWE Network is going to officially close down? Like, it's open internationally.
I know it is.
And I guess come January, it's going to be officially closed down, which I'm just so upset about. It was such a great invention. And
I know.
I miss it. But I will say this on like a side note, if you like the WWE Network and the way it was, like, structured and laid out, then you would really like the new TNA Wrestling app, because
100%.
It's made from the same people who created the original WWE Network, and it's so easy to navigate. The other day, and I know that I've posted this on our TikTok, and people really enjoyed this because it just shows how bad Peacock was. But you can watch. I'm watching an Impact, and this was an Impact that aired earlier in the week and just went onto the streaming. So not a lot of time. Went right in there, and up at the top, and you scroll up, it says annotations, and it pauses for a second and gives you a breakdown of where to go for each match on the show that night. Amazing. So I could just go right to what I wanted to watch. I love it. And I miss that from the old WWE Network. When you go through the pay-per-views and you could, they were broken down by the different matches. It was amazing.
Oh, 100%.
That's what wrestling fans are looking for. And I hope Netflix pays attention to that and is able to do something with that. I don't know if they will, but if it's at least better organized, I'll consider that a win.
Yeah, again, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it's a pain point for us. And I know we have a lot of international listeners, probably more international listeners than we do domestic listeners here. So I just want to say to you, I'm sorry, because you're now going to feel our pain. But I think the people who did the WWE Network, and again, I don't have anything to fact check this, but the people who did that and did the TNA or app also did the like MLB Network, and I believe that they understand sports a little bit better than some of these other companies. And I don't think it's a hard thing to do. I mean, listen, I'll volunteer my time. I'll give you my feedback. Please reach out to me. I'll tell you what needs to be done, and it's not hard, right? It'll be great for you. It'll be great for you. I'll volunteer my time. I'll gladly come help you make a great app because I can tell you exactly what we're looking for. But I go back to when I was a kid and VHS was a thing before DVD. I somewhere in the depths of my parents' basement, I probably can find these. I used to record all the Raws, and I remember being like, "Oh, this is great! I have like, I don't know, 50 episodes of Raw. How the hell am I going to figure out which episode has what I'm looking for on it?" I had no idea. So when the network came out and it was all organized and had all this stuff, I'm like, well, what a waste of my time and space. Like, I have these videos somewhere, and it's all the episodes was like, I think it was when like the Hart Foundation was out, and they were going up against DX and Shawn Michaels. Anyways, that's a whole nother story for another day. But yeah, I'm excited for Netflix. I'm curious to see how it goes. Plus, I also think a 10-year deal. I know it's like 5 years and they have an option or whatever, but I think it'll give some stability, so it's not constantly moving. And I'm willing to bet the ratings go up drastically because of the amount of people that can just watch it on demand. They don't have to watch it live, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will, but you think of all the pirated TV sites and all this stuff that were killing ratings. I'd be willing to bet it goes up. I do. So
I think so too. So I mean, we'll see what happens. They're still going to be on Peacock for at least another year because I don't think the deal is up until 2026 for at least in the US for the WWE library.
You mean they're going to be on USA?
Well, I mean, their library is still going to be on Peacock until 2026 when that deal is up. So I think it'll be interesting to see if they migrate all of it to Netflix or if they keep it on Peacock or if they go somewhere else with it.
Yeah, they also said that the deal is up in like June or something. There's like a 4 or 5 month lag between
of like where are they going to be?
Where are they going to be? Yeah, I'm curious to know because I can't imagine they're going to go 6 months or 4 months, whatever the time frame is, without having Raw. Like I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest with you.
Maybe for 4 months they'll be on Disney Plus.
Yeah, they'll be on Fubu. It is interesting though because you look at the deals they have and how much TKO paid to retain the WWE rights, right? Was it 9 billion or something? 6 billion? I can't remember. Like they got to make that money back, and I mean, how much did they make off? Right, but think about these deals. Like you look at, it's very similar to the NFL. Like all these NFL deals they get going on and signing with different things. Like I think that's how they're going to make their money. And ultimately, people, it's going to come down to us paying more. Like you can't tell me that somehow Netflix isn't going to make more money off this. Like I think Anya brought it up on the comments about how I wonder if they'll charge more money for these live streaming services and
absolutely
whatnot.
They will.
So, that's a business aspect of it. It's not really from a fan's perspective. That's what we do. Is very interesting. I'm curious to see how it pans out.
Right. Well, exciting time in wrestling, man.
Yeah.
So
for sure. All right, you want to get right into the Rumble now?
You got it all out of your system.
I got it all out.
I know you missed us, so you needed that time.
Goose Rabba.
Yeah, dude. Let's jump into the Rumble. What are your thoughts overall? Since you got to see it as soon as you got home, what was your overall thoughts?
I'm going to tell you this. It's a little tainted because I was on a long flight coming home. But I mean, I fell asleep 2 different times during the Royal Rumble, which, again, I'll chalk some of that up to just being tired from traveling. But I don't know. I even Raw yesterday night, it just something felt off. Like I don't know what it was, and what I was reading was that the Rumble, they had already scripted everything, and you didn't have. I think Brock Lesnar was supposed to be a part of it, and he wasn't, and they put Braun Breaker in his spot. And if you look at the people he threw out, it was all people that I feel like Brock would have thrown out. Like he threw out what's his name, the big dude there, not
Brock
Umos.
Reed?
No,
Almost.
Omos. I want to call him Umos for some reason. Omos.
Why do you want to call him Umos?
I don't know, man. I mess up everybody's name. So he threw him out, like the spot with you could see that was meant for Brock Lesnar, which good for them. They put Braun Breaker in. I think it's his time. He has a shot to shine and take that Brock Lesnar spot. Like, I think it was great, but I thought the women's rumble was good. I thought the men's rumble was
underwhelming,
boring. I mean, I thought the last piece of it, with Cody Rhodes was good. I didn't think it was as great as him and Gunther last year.
No, not at all.
You could see the rust with CM Punk, but
doesn't matter now.
Yeah, it was great that Bayley won. I thought that was a great choice. I thought for sure Becky Lynch was going to win, but I thought the spot with R-Truth was pretty funny. Him coming out.
That was perfect.
Yeah, that was so good.
So I had people over the house. I know you weren't able to come, but when I was there, one of our friends was like, what is the deal with R-Truth? Like, I don't get him. And I had to just explain that he's sort of like this character that just shows up in random places throughout the show and like isn't fully oriented. And so it almost becomes like he's like a meta character. He just like shows up wherever, like breaks continuity, canon, whatever it is in pro wrestling. And like once he understood that piece of it, he was like on board with it. Just loved everything that R-Truth did throughout the night. So
R-Truth has been funny. He's been good in coming back
fantastic
with the Judgment Day. The segment they did on Raw like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, talking about him and the Judgment Day. Oh, that was so good.
That's like actual good comedy in wrestling. Like it's just really good. It's just well done.
Well done. Yeah, but again, I thought the Rumble itself, like I said, props to WWE for bringing in a TNA wrestler and using her well, and
she looked good.
She did great.
She looked good.
Yeah, and I will tell you, Jade Cargill did not look great.
Why does everybody say that? I don't agree with this, but go ahead.
I don't know if she feels. I don't really know. Again, it's hard to tell if she's even a good wrestler because she just had squash matches in AEW. So I don't know if like I don't even know what her wrestling style is. Like it's and I don't think like it was great. She picked up Nia Jax and she came across powerful. I don't know.
What did you want her to do?
I don't know. I feel like a little bit she's like the woman Goldberg, right? Like she's coming in WWE. We don't know how she wrestles, and I hope she's just not overhyped. Like that's it.
That's a risk.
Yeah, I mean, look at we'll find out what happens. But again, that's just my 2 cents.
Right. Even though
I'm never right. I'm never right. So I'm never right, Mikey. So just it's all right. Whatever I say usually opposite.
No, it's all right. I got defensive because I was like, well, I thought she had a really good showing. She looked good.
Okay, that's fine. Hey, listen, it's rare we agree on stuff.
It is true.
It's fine.
That's part of the
I'm not telling you she was awful. I'm not telling you she was awful. I'm just saying I don't know. I mean, it's hard to judge in a Rumble.
Maybe you have more of an anti-AEW stance than you think. She came through. You feel like she got a stench from AEW?
No, I don't. I don't think it's an AEW thing. I'm curious to know if she can actually wrestle. Like that's it. I mean, she didn't have long matches in AEW. It was more of like a Goldberg stigma.
Where do you think they'll put her? You think they'll put her in NXT?
I don't know. I have a feeling she's going to wrestle at WrestleMania. I'll be willing to bet she's in like a tag team. I bet she tags with Bianca Belair.
That would be interesting.
I don't know why. I just get the feeling it'll be like a tag team. They can make her part of the show, build up the hype a little bit. It'll be maybe her first match. And
fight the Kabuki Warriors for the tag team title.
Yeah, maybe.
Could work.
Yeah.
Look at us booking the territory.
Well, let's finish talking about the Rumble, and then
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want to go in too much of a WrestleMania preview because we'll probably have a show on it. But I would like to do our first thought.
Okay, all right.
Like, you know, you go to a
one thing at a
wedding.
time.
You go to a wedding and you do your first look. I think that we should do like a first look into WrestleMania.
Don't get me started. Anyway,
Yeah.
so all right. But anyway,
what
Jade
are your
Cargill.
thoughts? I give it like a C. I don't think it was terrible. I
yeah.
don't love. You have four. What did they have? 4 matches in the.
Mhm.
Which is fine. We all like a shorter pay-per-view. I'm completely fine with that. But you can't have one of them end in a DQ. Like, that's stupid. Like, and I will be the first one to criticize Logan Paul when I get the chance. I've also been the first one to praise him when I get a chance. I thought he had one of the best matches of 2023. And I hated that match.
I think overall it just wasn't a strong show.
No.
And in terms of letter grade, I'd probably give it C+, B-. And really that to me, the one thing that carried the show was like the women's Rumble. That opened it up, and that was overall a really good match. And the other 3 were like, well, I didn't feel personally invested in much of any of the matches. Like I like Logan Paul, and so I was more invested in that than I think Sarge was when we talked about it on Friday. But even so, like the way it played out, it was like, okay, this is kind of, ho hum. We've kind of seen this before. And the Fatal 4-Way match, it was a foregone conclusion. I mean, it was hard to really get up for that. You're like this, you could think to yourself, this would probably be, it was a good match, but I think it was hard to get invested in the story of it because all of us knew in the back of our minds, well, what happens tonight after this match is really what's going to count. This is just Roman being Roman, Not
only that, but again, I'll say this till I am like blue in the goddamn face.
You're already blue in the sweatshirt.
I know I am, which I really like the sweatshirt. It brings out my brown eyes.
We got a little SmackDown Raw thing going on.
Yeah, it's true. How do you get invested in part-time wrestlers? Like Logan Paul hasn't been on TV in 6 months. Roman Reigns never wrestles, and you have 2 of the 4 matches with those guys. Like, I'm not invested. I don't give a shit. Like, that's my thing. Like, and I was gonna talk about this later, but we're gonna go right into it now. Did you watch Raw last night or catch any of the clips?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
Seth Rollins absolutely buried the WWE title last night.
Absolutely buried it.
Which is so strange to me because it's counterintuitive to what they're doing with Roman Reigns. It makes no sense to me. So the only conclusion that I can personally come up with is there have been a lot of injuries to CM Punk. Brock Lesnar's out. Charlotte Flair's done. Kevin Owens got injured. So what is the main event going to be? I was thinking personally, I thought it was going to be, I didn't know what it was going to be. There's some options, but ultimately my final thought at the moment was going to be Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. Those would be the 2 headliners. That's what I thought, to be honest with you. And you could say The Rock and Roman, whatever. But now that everyone's injured, what else do they do? I think you kind of have to do Roman versus The Rock and Cody versus Seth. Like, those are the 2 main events. I think they kind of backed themselves into a corner here because of the injuries, and even Seth Rollins is hurt. So, like, what do you do? And how do you complete this story with Cody Rhodes not wrestling Roman Reigns? And I think last night you heard, and I don't know, maybe I'm making this up, I don't know, but you heard Cody Rhodes. He said, Saturday, I needed you guys more than like ever. And then all of a sudden Seth Rollins comes out. To me, it seems like they're like, hey, listen, Cody, we want you to finish the story, but we need 2 main events here. So we're going to somehow make it seem like you're going to finish the story with Seth Rollins here. And how do you do that? You try and make that title mean more. Mean more. And I guess, like, in essence, you don't really need to make the world title mean more because Roman Reigns has already held it for so long, and that story is more about the head of the table than it is about the title. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if Cody was upset because they're like, hey, listen, this is the direction we're going in, and I know it sucks, but maybe not. I don't know. I hope not.
Yeah, we don't know what it was. We don't know what it is.
I want to see Cody more than anything. As much as I want to see The Rock and Roman, I think we could do that another time. I want to see Cody finish the story with Roman. I think that's the perfect way to end Roman's title reign, which I think needs to happen if he's not going to be on TV. I can't take it. When he was on TV constantly and was defending the title, he was much more prominent in my eyes. This is just, I felt more invested in the story. It was great. I just don't feel that same way anymore. And I think it's just because he's not on TV.
Well, I don't know if it's that, but I also think at some point it just starts going on too long. I mean, for it to be in the time we are in wrestling where things move so fast, to have a guy who's held a title for almost 4 years is almost unheard of to think about. And so I think there's something to that piece of it too, where it's like eventually our attention just starts to wane on it. And as great as this run has been for him, and it's arguably one of the greatest title reigns in pro wrestling history, however you feel about part-time or not, the bottom line is he's doing it and he's making history, and he's was arguably at the top of his game. I'm not really sure anymore at this point. I think maybe he's looking to step away a little bit, which I don't blame him for. As far as the part-time thing, and I said this with Sarge too, I just don't buy into that. I'm like, that's kind of bullshit. We've been arguing about this for 10 years about the part-time thing ever since The Rock came back, even earlier in 2013. And there was a whole argument. We can't get fully invested in 2013 because The Rock's not here all the time. And how could they expect people to want to buy the show? Well, guess what? They did buy the show. WrestleMania 29 broke box office. So what are they talking about? And then Brock Lesnar was another part-time champion, and everybody was upset about that. And then look what happens as soon as WrestleMania comes around and he's getting ready for a match. Everyone's up for it. So I think this is just a weird thing that we get caught up in because we as wrestling fans take a lot of ownership more than any other sport of the people that we're watching. And so I think we like to have that control, and we would like them here every week. We want them to sort of ascribe to, like, we have our own expectations for them is what I'm saying. A long-winded way, but
I'm gonna disagree.
Right. Yeah,
only because
that's why I like you. Vito. We have to disagree.
Let me give you this example. When Roman Reigns was constantly on SmackDown, and they did the story with Sami Zayn, how invested in that story were you? I mean, you talked about it forever because of
it was great.
It was awesome.
Great TV.
But it was because you felt it. You saw him every week. It was a build-up. I just can't get invested. Like, sure, am I going to be excited about the match regardless, whether he's there or not, whether it's Brock Lesnar or Roman? Yes, 100%. But I'm just telling you, the outcome usually is less, and the match becomes less because you are just less invested because the guy's not there. You know, again, if Roman was there every single week and we were talking about Cody Rhodes or we were talking about The Rock or whatever it might be, I just fully believe that you are so much more invested in that match that when you are watching that match, no matter the outcome, like it's a different feeling. And that's truthfully how I feel. And so when they buried the title last night on Raw,
that was a mistake.
It was a mistake, but it also was interesting because I do feel like that title is more important because Seth Rollins is defending it and showing up every week. And it's like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Like, you're speaking the truth right now. And I'm glad you said that. But for them to come out and say it is strange because it's counterintuitive to what they're doing with Roman Reigns. Like, it's a weird feeling for me because I understand what they're doing and it makes a lot of sense. And I agree with them, but it also like diminishes a little bit of what Roman Reigns is doing.
And so my hope is that there's some sort of rebuttal on SmackDown then about the prestige of that title, because you got to do something there because what you risk now is that nobody will care about that because now you're burying it. you sanctioned this. You sanctioned him to go out there unless he went completely rogue, which has happened before. But I mean,
I
not
don't-
Seth Rollins, but it's happened where wrestlers have gone rogue before. But this is kind of this didn't feel that way. This felt calculated.
Yeah.
And so I maybe that's part of the story that they're trying to tell is if maybe Seth is trying to manipulate Cody into thinking that somehow going for Roman's title is going to be less prestigious than him going for his. But I mean, that World Heavyweight Championship's only been around less than a year. So I think in terms of prestige and history, you have to also look at the hypocrisy of what he's saying. He was also a former WWE champion. So let's not forget that. One of the most famous cash-ins of all time at WrestleMania 31. So he's talking out of his ass right now.
But again, it also shed light on the fact that there's two champions and one is less than the other. Like it kind of was like a unknown thing. It was like you don't talk about which one's better than the other. It's like they're both champions.
You just have two championships.
Yeah, and now it's like you're competing against champions, and it to me it just feels strange because with all the different titles and whatnot, I honestly don't know which one is a more prestigious title. I would obviously think the WWE one is, but again, this is the whole thing, and
I don't know.
I'll quote the late great. I'll quote Big Mango here. When you have what did he say? Something like when you have too many championships, you have no champions at all, or something.
Yeah, if everyone's a champion, nobody's a champion.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with him, but it's kind of like as a wrestling fan, you just go with the flow, and you're like, whatever. There's a bunch of champions.
The disbelief of like this world.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, like it was just an interest. I was watching it last night, and I was almost like they're burying this title right now, and it's very odd.
Yeah.
But I think it's because they have to build. I personally believe it's because they're going to end up having Rock versus Roman. I hope they don't, but they have to have two main events.
If that's how they do it, I just disagree with the method of how they do it. Then.
Me too.
I would disagree with the method. I almost, and I said this on Friday. If I was going to do it, like maybe it's not a one-on-one match, or maybe it is a triple threat with Rock, Cody, and Roman, and they take the route of like the old, like, remember WrestleMania 20, right? Benoit wins the Rumble. Michaels forces his way into the match. He just like doesn't let it go. He just keeps attacking both of them, and eventually they just put him in the match. And so I want, like, you could do that and have Rock be the third guy that keeps injecting himself into it, which could be good because it could also save face for Cody. If people would sort of defend him maybe of, hey, this guy won the Rumble. He earned the right to do this. What are you doing trying to get into it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
but that's true too.
Maybe that does
make
a lot of sense. But
I also think when you finish this story, it needs to be a clean win for Cody over Roman. Like I think that's like the if you're gonna sum this up in the perfect light for a wrestling fan, like it's got to be a clean win. Yeah. It's got to be him pinning Roman to complete the story, and to me, that'll. I think everybody wants that. I think you've gone a year. You've gone a year saying you're going to complete this. I think people want that. I think they need that. And I also think it's going to diminish the match versus Roman and The Rock. Like I think that could be a huge match. Obviously,
unless
and you don't even need the title
they kick
on Roman.
That can down the road. If they kick the can down the road and do it at SummerSlam, or they do it at Survivor Series.
But then who's the other main event? What's that? That's the thing. Like where do you? I mean, where do you go with the second main event for WrestleMania this year?
Do you realize how far we've gone from the Royal Rumble?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
This first here, I feel like we just went down a rabbit hole.
Well, listen, it was the first look at a wedding. My wife looked beautiful. I just want to keep talking to her. You know, that's the first look. Well,
like, hey, how you doing? You know.
There's not much to talk about with the Rumble. I just, you know, I
go for it.
I was just gonna say, okay, so let's talk about we talked about the men's Rumble. Thought it was all right.
Let's talk about the women's.
I'll be honest. I think it went. Women's Rumble was the best. Men's was probably the second best thing. I think then the 4-way match, then maybe the other match. And you know, if you talk about the 4-way match, like
There was not. I don't even need to talk about it, quite honestly. And that wasn't anything to write home
stupid.
about. It was
it was stupid. It again, and I think they're killing LA Knight's momentum. The poor guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't feel the same.
Nope.
From when we talked to him in September to now, it's just like,
yeah. I don't think he's a flash in the pan, as some other
I don't
people
think so
like to
either.
call it. But
I think this happens a lot sometimes, and we've seen it happen with other wrestlers. When it comes to this time of the year, it's very crowded at the top, and I think there's only so much room, and it's hard. I think they find themselves in this weird like kind of booking jail where like there's only so much they can do with this person until afterwards, which is saying something that they don't see them as in that picture right now. But who knows? Hopefully after WrestleMania, we'll kind of see a real resurgence there for LA Knight, but I just don't see it happening by Mania.
I mean, if you're gonna do the Rock, I mean, Roman and Cody, you should give the other main event to LA Knight. Like, you still have momentum there. You can capitalize on it. I mean, have we seen Rollins? Have we seen Rollins versus LA Knight? I don't think we have. I don't know that it would be the best match, to be honest, though. Like, I'm as much as I love LA Knight, I like Rollins is on a different level of wrestling, I think, than I wouldn't mind a Gunther versus Rollins match. I think that would be awesome.
He's got to drop that IC title first.
I know that. Yeah. It'll be interesting. I don't know. But yeah, the Rumble you want to talk about the Women's Rumble? We can. I know we're kind of all over the place here.
You know how much I love the Women's Rumble. And look at her. Look at that winner right there. Bayley.
It was
amazing.
I was glad she won.
She deserved it.
Who's she going to face, though? Because I think Ripley. You think so?
She's going to face Vito. Yeah. There's been this whole story with Damage Control on SmackDown where ever since Asuka joined and then Kairi Sane joined, there's been this like rift. And there's like a separation between them and Bayley where like they're kind of viewing her as like the odd woman out. Yeah. So I think that now with this Rumble story progressing the way it is, and after what happened on Raw last night, where she kind of called out Rhea Ripley, Rhea Ripley responded and was coming out, and looked like there was going to be something, and then Nia Jax jumped in. So I think they're setting that up probably for the Elimination Chamber. Whoever wins that will get a shot at Rhea, and
I think it'll be Becky.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, she did say it here on the podcast that she did want Rhea
That's
Ripley
why
at
I'm saying
WrestleMania.
that.
So she's going to find a way.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. Go back and listen. But I do think that Bayley's going to end up fighting Io Sky. I always have this like weird hope that maybe Sasha will come back to like be in her corner or something, but I feel like that's too much of like small potatoes for Sasha. If she's coming back, it's got to be for like a real match. So, but I do think Bayley. I love. Oh, I know you are, but I'm
come back or don't.
I know. I'm just happy for Bayley. I think she has had such a great body of work in wrestling, and I feel like I'm just repeating myself now, but really, she's been overshadowed by the other three of the Four Horsewomen for a long time. She was the only one that didn't get called up to the main roster when they went from NXT. She's always sort of been the odd woman out, and so that's why I kind of like this Damage Control storyline, because it's sort of like art imitating life, where now she's become almost less in the spotlight than the other ones are within the group. So I think this was a good way for her to get back in that spotlight. She's now going to have a main event at WrestleMania. If they do it right, she could headline night one. That's what I would want, because I think we haven't had that happen since Sasha and Bianca a couple of years ago. So I think they're kind of due. Like you need a prominent women's storyline in there. But that's just Mikey Cash's 2 cents. But I think Bayley, I don't see, for some reason, and I said this on Friday, that I think Bayley may not be here much longer for some reason. I don't know why, but they have this weird feeling that like maybe she's gonna go somewhere else, and whether it's Japan or TNA or something like that. I just feel like she could and be successful. She's someone who I think of the four her and Mercedes have that kind of, I don't know, just have that ability where they could thrive in pretty much any system that you put them in.
Okay. Well, two things. One, do you think she turns face? I think she does.
Yeah, I think she's already starting.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, I think she will, and then that makes that storyline a lot better. The second thing is, I think you're right. I think you do the Royal Rumble. You have 2 nights of WrestleMania. I think make it real simple. One headlines one night, the women's. One headlines the other. I mean, otherwise, what are you doing? Why do you even have the Royal Rumble?
Yeah,
why do you even have
exactly?
So I think you're right on that. I'll give you that. I'll give you that for sure.
Check us out. Look, did we just agree on something?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, look at I think it's great to have like. I mean, the problem is okay. Rock comes
There's
back.
too much. There's too much at the top.
Yeah. But I think you set the standard and just do it that way. And like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like you or
People
don't have
will
the
live.
Rumble.
They'll be
Or
fine.
don't have the Rumble. You know, like
Right.
that's my
Great.
theory.
That's
like,
a great point.
If it's such a prominent thing,
if you're not going
like,
to do anything with it, then don't do the Rumble.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how that goes. One thing we didn't talk about. We had typically at the Rumble, you have like legends or whoever come back, and the legends were lacking this year, which fine, whatever. I always like to see. It would have been cool to have Jacqueline come back for the Rumble or something like that. I thought for sure we were going to see Hogan come back, and like even if it was for like a 10-second thing, just like the amount you've seen him on TV. It was in Tampa. He hasn't had that last match. I've been talking about it forever. I just thought for the half second, you were going to see him come back, but whatever. Again, these are things that it's not make or break. It just would have been cool. But you had Naomi come back, which I think you predicted.
That was great.
We all saw that coming. It's good to see her come back. The other one, which I don't quite understand. I don't like this guy. I think it's just going to be another mid-carder, Andrade.
Maybe. I mean, you might be right, but
he's just going to be on the mid-carder. What is he going to do?
I don't know, but would you rather maybe in wrestling, there's a lot of he's married to Charlotte, so I think that's a big part of him wanting to come back. At least you get to see your spouse more often.
I know. I just
we'll see what happens. Time will tell. He's only been back for a cup of coffee right now, but
yeah,
I know. We'll see how it progresses. Maybe he does something with Legado del Fantasma or LWO, that kind of thing. Who knows?
He doesn't do it for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it for me. I don't know what it is. I mean, great, he came back. I just see him as another, like LWO member or something. Like
not everyone's meant to be world champion. It's just it's not the way wrestling works.
That's
not
fine.
Everyone's going to be at the top.
That's fine. I just, he left because I think he wasn't getting that push that he wanted, and he's coming back, and I don't think he's going to get that push that he wanted. So that's just my thing.
I don't think so either. Like we said, it's crowded at the top right now.
Yeah, which is good.
I wanted to respond to something you mentioned about the lack of legends in this match.
Sure.
And I think, at least on the women's side, I find it to be kind of a healthy thing, because in my head, it's showing just how deep the roster is now. They can rely on the people that they have. And not just Raw and SmackDown, but also bringing in some of the NXT folks. Tiffany Stratton, love her. I got to see her at Battleground last May with Mrs. Cash, and that's her new favorite wrestler is Tiffany Stratton. And Roxanne Perez, absolute badass. I think they had good showings, and I think what it's doing is it's also validating the system that they have. Is now you can have those people join in the Royal Rumble, and it feels like, oh, these people are good. They can hang with the main roster talent. And so I think that it's just showing the growth that this division has made over the years. And I really enjoyed the surprise with Jordynne Grace. I like that. If that's like a yearly thing where like TNA just maybe sends whoever their Knockouts champion is to enter into the Royal Rumble, that's kind of cool. It's like, I like that, because I just enjoy that. I like that Triple H hated the Forbidden Door.
I was about to. I was like,
all right, if a wrestling company wants to work with another one, they just will. And
I don't want to call it that silly door thing.
I know you just got so pissed about it. I really think that this makes TNA seem like one of the best wrestling companies out there because they work with everybody. They have great relationships with New Japan. They work with AEW. They work with CMLL. They're working with WWE. I mean, dude, Scott D'Amore is just absolutely crushing it in the networking game. This guy knows how to make friends.
Yeah.
It's just, I think that's plain and simple. And that's really great. It's a good look for TNA, quite honestly.
Oh, 100%. And I think they have an opportunity where AEW is floundering a little bit, where they can step up in the ranks. I don't know that they have the cash flow that, Daddy Khan has over there, but they
clearly don't need to. Look at what they're able to do. They know how to build relationships.
Nope, I agree. But you talked about the women's Rumble and Legends. I think the other piece that's kind of cool is you go back in the history, the women's division, obviously we talk about all the time, has come a long way. And back in the day when you had like Trish Stratus and Lita and some of these women wrestlers that didn't get the time of day, it's great to see them come back when it's flourishing and to have that opportunity in there. So like having someone like Jacqueline, who I think could have hung with some of the people today, or someone like Jazz or people like that were ahead of the time, is always fun to see and to give them their due. Like, and I compare it to like a Rumble a few years ago when Christian came back, right? He came in the number 2 spot and he hung around the entire time in the Rumble. I thought it was kind of cool because it was like, oh, you think he's going to get eliminated real quick, doesn't have a shot at winning.
Right.
And it just, I don't know, I always find that pretty cool. And I like when they have a legend come back. I don't know who from the men's side it would have been. People talked about X-Pac, which whatever, that wouldn't really have done it for me. I mean, it would have been cool, something like that, but someone you haven't seen in a while. It would have been cool to see Zack Ryder come back. That would have been cool. I thought we had a shot at that. I was a big Zack Ryder guy.
It was possible. Yeah.
I like Matt Cardona. Cardona. I think he's good. But anyways, I always look forward to something like that in the Rumble. Again, that's my me. I say it all the time. I'm a sucker for a good surprise.
I know. You love a good shot in the arm like that.
Yeah, I'm always telling you something stupid's gonna happen.
I know. And sometimes it does. You even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
I'd say I hit about 2% of the time.
No,
and that's generous.
That's all right. Yeah, we'll give it to you. That's fine.
But yeah.
So
at least I'm realistic.
I guess what? Overall thoughts on this show? Good, not great.
Yeah, I thought it was disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was expecting better. Again, I wonder how much of all the stuff going on externally had to do with it. Listen, I watched the press conference. Triple H looked old for the first time in a while. I don't know, maybe it was the glasses. I've never seen him wear glasses.
It's been a stressful week, I think.
He just looked old and run down. And I mean, there's a lot going on right now. And I did like what Cody said, though, and I think it's there's not a lot. People don't talk about this a lot, but having someone like Cody Rhodes or Mick Foley in the locker room goes a long way. Like, and he talked about how, they're like a family now, and they give themselves a hard time, but when you guys are all on the same page and like everyone's fighting for each other, and you want to, obviously, personally, you want to do well, but like when you can do things as a team and like you can see it as a fan, you can see that everyone's fighting for the same thing. That's why it's always good to have competition, because they have something to fight for, but they're all on the same team, and you see that. I felt it, even when CM Punk came back, like you felt everyone was, agitated, right? But they were willing to give him a shot. And I thought that was a cool thing to say. And it just, you haven't had locker room guys like that. You have the Undertaker, but he's not, I feel like he's just like the dictator, like, the old school wrestling locker room leader. But like guys like Mick Foley, who, and I think he's probably the ultimate locker room guy. And if you listen to JR's podcast, he talks about all the time. He's like, one thing I felt like we were lacking when we brought in Mick Foley was a good locker room guy. And he's like, that's half the reason I wanted him in WWE. And I think it goes a long way. I really do. I think Cody's that type of guy.
Cody definitely has the ability. He knows how to do good PR. He has the ability to he knows how to do a press conference. Maybe that has something to do with the EVP experience. You kind of have to have that ability to do that. So I think he already has had experience being closer to Triple H's role than not, and maybe by more so than some of the other wrestlers have. So I think if there was anybody that might be more prepared to give a statement like that about what the whole situation was, it would be Cody. So I mean, and I think according to wrestling Twitter, he gave a better answer than Triple H did, who was pulling his best Neo, just dodging, which that part I kind of understand. I think we get like we get a hair across our ass where we just have an expectation that, well, he needed to come out here and say all of this. And yeah, ideally that would have happened. But guess what? That's not the reality of business. That's not the reality of what they're dealing with. And he's probably being told not to say anything. So if he's got to act like an idiot and like it's not ideal. I would much rather he just say, yeah, this is fucked up. I can't believe Vince did this. This is my father-in-law. But that's not the world we live in. It's not going to happen.
No,
no one here is going to get what they want from him at a press conference.
He can't, because if it wasn't for Vince, he wouldn't be in the position he's in. So he can't throw Vince under the bus, and he can't paint himself in a corner of being a supporter of Vince. But
even bigger than that, he's got there's so many more people Triple H has to answer to now.
Yeah, that's true.
That it's different. It's not as simple as we're a privately run company, so we can kind of say and do whatever the fuck we want. That's not how it works.
Right.
They have a whole board of directors that they have to answer.
Right.
The guy Ari Emanuel sounds like he's really pissed about this whole situation. So he probably doesn't want anybody saying anything, and he's trying to handle all this and get rid of those people that were close to Vince, which, dude, who the fuck knows? Maybe Triple H is gone too. I mean, you don't know. We don't know what they really want to do there. So I'm interested to see what happens in the next couple of months, because I think it's going to be a while of this process of sort of eliminating those close to Vince.
Yeah. I'm also curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, it's you know what though? This makes for great not the Vince thing. Sorry, it was a bad transition.
Bad transition.
bad transition. I will say, outside of the Vince thing, and we've said it for a while now, when we started this podcast, we were angry. We wanted to voice our opinion, and we've come a long way. Like I mean, listen, if you could go speed through all of our podcasts, the amount of anger and outrage we had as a fan to where we are now, and it's like there's options, and it's good time for wrestling, and it's much more zen well, sort of. I mean, listen, we still have our opinions, but
still get heated.
We're much more relaxed. We're enjoying what's going on. We might not like some of the stuff, but at least we're in a better direction.
Agreed. I think this podcast was initially an outlet to voice our frustration. And then over time, we got it out of our system. I think that's important. But then as time went on, wrestling did just get better. And then there was more options, and those options got better. So there's not that much to complain about. If I don't like it, I'll just watch something else and kind of get my fix from that. So,
Agreed.
Well, anything else, Vito?
No, I think next up, we do a little, preview for WrestleMania down the road here. This is kind of our hot season. We usually always do a little WrestleMania preview, a little WrestleMania recap. And I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm like I said, we've talked about it today, but it's bummer that you have all these injuries. And I think you originally look at the potential card that you had, and it was probably one of the best we've had in a long, long time. Not that the others were terrible, but I just think it was just so many good things. There's so many different stories that could have happened. And unfortunately, that's just not going to be the case. So we'll see what happens. I think it's an opportunity for people to step up.
Yeah,
I do.
Well, hey, you know what? I couldn't have said it any better myself. So, guys, thank you again for listening and sticking around with us all these years. And we got more coming your way. I think we're going to be doing some episodes in the next couple of weeks as we lead up to Elimination Chamber in Australia. That'll be a fun show. Maybe we'll even do a review episode of the very first Elimination Chamber way back in 2002. And the ugliest wrestling attire of all time belonging to Shawn Michaels. So
it was his haircut. It was the bob.
It was the hair. It was everything involved. It was just unbelievable. It looked like a soccer mom out there, but it was great. So listen, guys, you know where to find our website. You know where to find us on the socials.
Hit that subscribe button.
Hit that subscribe button, baby. We're trying to break some barriers here. So we got some good stuff coming your way. Again, keep your eyes on those feeds. Thank you for joining us today. And until next time, keep on strutting, jabroni.